Hello and good evening to all the students out there who are preparing for CUET. So this is Sheetal, your student mentor from Hitbullseye, and you are watching another live based on another topic of your verbal section of CUET exam. So not just this exam, for all the upcoming CUET exams, this topic is highly important. So people have already given their CUET exam in the slots of July, and for the upcoming exams, this topic we've anticipated that this might play an important role. So you must be thinking, okay, we've heard about logical reasoning, analytical reasoning. What is verbal reasoning? Am I right? So yes, there is a section named verbal reasoning, and not just in your verbal section of the exam, this can also come in your general aptitude. So verbal reasoning is your reasoning based on words and statements in English language. How well you comprehend the given statement, how well you understand it, and then on the basis of it, certain types of questions are there which we are going to look in today's live. So without any further delay, let's begin with the class. So the objectives or the overview of today's session is going to be, first of all, we will understand what verbal reasoning is. Then we will see its relevance in the test. We will see some practice questions. We are going to practice some 9 to 10 questions based on it. So don't worry, not just the learning, not just understanding this knowledge that I am imparting today. It will be reinforced in your minds after practicing these questions. Then we will see what assumption is, particularly what implied assumption is. And then we'll see how to strengthen or weaken an argument. After this, we'll see some questions based on inference and conclusion. So these are all subtopics of verbal reasoning. In today's live, we are particularly going to have a look at assumption-based question and conclusion-based question, because these are the most important ones. And in the upcoming live, we will take the other topics as well. So first of all, before starting the class or even before moving to the questions, let's understand some basic terms of verbal reasoning. So even in your school time, you must have faced these questions. So first thing that we should know is, there is a certain statement, a statement which carries some facts, some given facts, plus some unstated facts. And this statement with a valid reason lead us to a certain conclusion. So one by one, we will understand all of these. So if we say facts, any statement, any assertion, anything said by a speaker, anything written by an author is a fact. So facts are not always truth, but yes, truth or a true statement is always a fact. So this is just nothing, a simple statement, any line is known as fact. And then there are some unstated facts. Just by the name you can make out they are not directly given to you in the statement. These are also known as assumptions. What do we understand by assumptions? Things that the author assume, that he take for granted before stating something, before saying something. So if the speaker or the author, he's giving this statement, he's assumed certain facts before saying this particular thing, and then there should be some reason to it to lead it to a proper conclusion. Just as you have a story, you have a passage, after reading the whole passage you conclude it, you conclude certain facts about it. Similarly, you'll be given certain statement on the basis of which you have to find out a conclusion. So it will be like a short story. So in this exam, as you can see the topics, we've already discussed what assumption is. Okay, let's understand it with an example. If I say India is a developing country, there is an issue of unemployment in India, and this issue is going to be seen in future also, in upcoming years also. So this is a statement. What have I assumed when I said this? Obviously, I have assumed that today India is developing, therefore there is problem of unemployment. Even in future, I am assuming that this problem of being developing country will sustain. It will not be developed country, it will still be developing, and therefore unemployment will still be there. So this was an assumption which I didn't state or didn't mention in my statement, but yes, I assumed it. On the basis of it, I have issued certain statement. So statement plus reason, it is also known as argument. So with this, I believe it's clear now what facts are, what assumption is, and how to find out certain conclusion. With this, let's move on to the next slide. So what is verbal reasoning? What do we understand by it? So I've simplified it. Reasoning based on the statements, obviously it is not the reasoning based on given data on some figures, it is reasoning based on words and statements. It tests one's logic and reasoning skill. So these are not simple questions, not simply based on vocabulary as in if you know the answer, you know the answer. No, these involve your critical understanding of given statement. Test to find out how well a candidate can assess a verbal logic. Obviously, we all come from different subjects, we all come from different areas. So how is the examiner going to test your aptitude, your logical understanding? It will all be tested through these types of questions. So it assesses your verbal logic as in how well you know the language and how well can you understand it. Reasoning tests have to be answered at a high speed because of the paucity of time, obviously, and mental alertness, keenness, quick thinking and keen observation are some of the factors that are very important in verbal reasoning and solving questions of verbal reasoning. Right, so what are the types of questions that can come from verbal reasoning? We've already discussed some topics. So questions are based on either you will be asked to find the implied assumption which is hidden, which is implied in it, which is implicit. Implicit is hidden in the given statement. You might be asked questions on, is the given argument strong or weak? So an argument is strong when it is supporting the assumption, when it is leading us to the conclusion, and if it is something contrary to the assumption and it is negating the conclusion, it is known to be as a weak argument. So either you will be asked out of the four options which one is the strong argument or which is the weak argument, or else you will be asked, is this argument weakening the conclusion or strengthening the conclusion? Then there are questions on inference and conclusion. So we've already discussed conclusion. On the basis of the given statement, the author is hinting us or giving us some hints towards a particular conclusion which we have to find out. And then there is inference. Inference is the hidden conclusion which is not directly given to you in the statement. You have to deduce it after logically understanding the given statements. Let's see some question to further understand it. So in this question, you are asked to find out assumptions. We have to find out implied assumptions which are implicit, which are hidden in the statement. So the statement is, according to me, you should get your child examined by a specialist doctor. A tells B. So a particular person whom we have named A is suggesting some other person B that you should get your child examined by a specialist doctor. What must have A assumed before saying this? So you have two options here. So how do you answer these questions? You have to state if the first one is implied assumption, if the second one is implied assumption, if both of them are implied assumption, or if neither is implied assumption. So first option is specialist doctors are able to diagnose better than ordinary doctors. Yes, who is going to answer this question? Let's see. I'll wait for a few seconds and then I'll answer it. The second statement is, B will certainly not agree with A's advice. What must have an author or a speaker, anyone who's issuing something, who's advising someone for something, would have assumed before stating something? Yes, anyone. Alright, so if we see the first assumption, specialist doctors are able to diagnose better than ordinary doctor. Obviously, because A believes that specialist doctors are better than the ordinary doctor, that is the reason he's particularly mentioned that your child should be examined by a specialist doctor. So yes, this was something that the speaker A assumed before stating this. And if we look at the B, the second option, B will certainly not agree with A's advice. So if A already know that B is not going to agree, why would he even suggest him something, right? So this is not an implied assumption. This is how you have to answer these questions. So the answer is statement assumption 1 is implied. Let's see another question. You must buy Introduction to XYZ. This is some book. Introduction to XYZ, the only book on management for the coming exams. So if you see the keywords, the words that should be highlighted or that you should be highlighting, the trigger words, there is the word only book, as in there is no other book on this subject in market. Now tell me, what must have the speaker assumed before saying this? This book will help you in exams. Obviously, because the speaker believes this book will help you, this is the reason he is giving the advice, right? Second, there is no other book which can serve your purpose. Because of this word only book in market, it makes clear that this is the only book which will serve your purpose, which is going to help you for this exam. So yes, the second statement is also implied. Both the statements are implied. Clear? Let's move on to the next question. So the statement is cinema ticket rates have been revised to meet the increased cost of hiring movie reels. So in a certain cinema, the cost of the tickets have been revised. Why? To meet the increased cost of hiring movie reels. Because the cost of movie reels is high now, the rates are also increased. Obvious enough. So the assumptions are the ticket rates partly depend on the hiring charge for movie reels. Yes, of course, because if the cinema is investing more on buying the movie reels, it has to earn that much of revenue so that it don't incur those losses. So obviously it will be done by increasing the rates of the tickets. So yes, the first statement is implied. What about the second one? Earlier the rates were very low. A tempting option, I would say. But nowhere in the statement has it been given that earlier the rates were low. Maybe the rates are high at the present time or were high in the past time, and they could even more be increased to meet the increased cost of the movie reels. So this is something we can't say is implied because there is no substance or proof to it in the given statement. I hope you're understanding how to tackle with verbal reasoning questions. Okay, so let's see this question now. Read the instructions carefully before opening the test booklet. So there is a test booklet. On the front page of it, certain instructions are given to you. This is one of the instructions. The instruction says that read the instructions carefully before opening the textbook. Why has the examiner put this instruction? What would he have assumed before stating this? The examinees are literate, as in they can read. Obviously, this is the reason they are sitting in the exam. So they can read it, the language is comprehensible to them. They can read it, understand it, only then are they going to read the instructions, right? None of the examinee is sightless. So unless until there are other provisions for the blind people or people who are sightless, all of the people who are attempting this paper, the paper on which certain instruction has been typed, obviously will understand or obviously are not sightless. They can see the instruction, only then will they be able to give the exam, right? So yes, both the assumptions are implied. The next question says, the statement is, buy natural cosmetics, have beautiful looks. A magazine ad. So in a magazine there is an ad which states that buy natural cosmetics, have beautiful looks. So they are promoting natural cosmetics. So what can be an assumption? What must have the author or the speaker assumed before saying this? That artificial cosmetics can be prepared. How can we make out that artificial cosmetics can be prepared? Why? Because there is an emphasis on the natural cosmetics. What was the need for the company to emphasize the natural cosmetics? Because there are artificial cosmetics also there in market, right? This becomes obvious from the statement. So yes, the first statement is implied, and if you look at the second one, people prefer to look beautiful. So whenever there is a company, they are producing something, they are propagating some product, they are launching some product in market. Why do they do it? Because people demand for it, people want it. So yes, for the proper sales, they are going to introduce only those products which are in high demand. So yes, people prefer to look beautiful, and this is the reason these cosmetics companies, they do come up with different products, sometimes artificial, sometimes natural. So again, both the assumptions are implied. Okay, so the statement says, in spite of poor services, the commuters have not complained against it. Look at the keywords again. In spite of poor services. Now the assumptions. Generally, people do not tolerate poor services. Generally. So, is this implied or not? Let's see if you can answer this one. Yes, juggle your mind, think about it. So the first assumption is generally people do not tolerate poor services. How will we decide if this is implied or not? Because there is this word, in spite of poor services, which states that generally people do complain about poor services, but in this particular case, they are not doing so. So yes, first assumption is implied. And the next one, complaints sometimes improve services. Now the speaker is speculating over the fact that in spite of the poor services, people are not complaining, and which means generally people do complain. And why do people complain? Because they expect it to be they expect that the government or the transport service, they are going to work towards it. So yes, they do believe that it will improve services, so people do generally do complain about poor services. So again, both the assumptions are implied. All right, so the next statement says, interviews conducted for selecting people for jobs should measure personality characteristics of candidates. So whenever there are interviews taken by a company, what do they expect? Why do they take interviews? To check the personality characteristics. So this is given, this is the stated fact. We have to find out the unstated facts or the assumptions in this particular statement. So can the assumption be performance on job depends upon personality characteristics? Obviously, they are hiring a person for a particular job, for a particular role. To see if the person is fit for that job, they are going to check the personality traits. Otherwise, what is the purpose of taking interviews? They can directly hire people. So yes, the first assumption is implied. And if we look at the second one, personality characteristics can be measured in interviews. So now we know that personality characters depends, or they determine how the person is going to perform in the given job, how is he going to perform in the given role. There can be different measures. The taking interviews is one among them. So either it can be a group discussion, either it can be a personal interview, either the company can take a written test, or the company can notice the person. It can let's say it can inquire about his previous job from his previous employers also, right? So yes, the second one is also assumed. I hope this is clear now how to find out assumptions. Alright, have a look at this one. Miss Yukta Mukhe of Bombay has won the Miss Universe contest held in Honolulu. So, Honolulu, which is capital of Hawaii, in this particular place, Miss Yukta Mukhe from Bombay, who hails from Bombay, she won the Miss Universe contest. So before issuing this statement, what could have been the assumptions by the author or the speaker? The result of Miss Universe contest is out. Quite obvious, because the results are out, and he know that this particular lady, she has won this contest. He is issuing the statement, he or she is issuing the statement. And the second one, the Honolulu government always permits the holding of such contests. So as I said earlier, we need to see the keywords. Here the keyword is always. So we will never go towards the extremes. We will never use the extreme words unless until it is stated in the statement itself. So if you remember in the previous question, certain book was suggested for an exam and the word only was added with it in the statement itself. In that case, those extreme words do work. But in cases like this, we cannot use always. So this word is problematic here, which makes the statement not which shows us that this assumption is not implied in the given statement. So for this, the answer is only the first one. First assumption is implied in the given statement. So other words which you need to look for are only, all, definitely, certainly, strongly. So these are all strong words. So you have to be careful. You have to trace them in the statement also if they are given in the assumption to say that the assumption is implied. There should be substance or proof enough in the statement. Strongly, best, worst, exclusively, most certainly, usually, rarely, probably, etc. So any words like these, you need to be careful about them. Alright, so let's see some questions based on finding out conclusions. So we've been finding assumption. Assumptions are which are not already given in the statement, which are unstated fact, which the reader have to find out, right? But the conclusion are, after reading the whole statement or certain line, you have to conclude it. Let's see what conclusion is. Always read very carefully and try to find out keywords. Keywords play an important role in analyzing valid and invalid conclusion. So when is a conclusion valid? When the statement has a proper reason with it to lead us to that conclusion, it becomes valid. Otherwise, it is invalid. So in the conclusion, if the conclusion is provided with a stated example, then the conclusion is invalid. So there should not be stated examples. Keywords are such as all, no, few, most, must, had, to, will be, always, never, may not, and so on. These words help in evaluating the given conclusion, because obviously these words hint us towards that the coming line, the line in succession, is going to be a conclusion if one such word is used before the line. But yes, you will not find these words always there in exam. It's just that this is further to aid you. Whenever you find these words, it can help you to understand what the conclusion is. Let's see if you can answer this question. Parents are prepared to pay any price for an elite education to their children. So when are the parents ready to pay for an elite education? All parents these days are very well off. So even apart from what is given in the statement, think about can this assumption be legible? So just because people want to give good education to their children doesn't mean they are well off. They will pay for it by hook or crook, by any way. It depends upon their willingness to send their children to an elite school and not on their money or that they are well off. So conclusion number one, which is all parents these days are very well off, is not the right conclusion. The statement doesn't lead us towards this conclusion. But if we see the second one, parents have an obsessive passion for perfect development of their children through good schooling. So even if they are not able to afford it, they are going to do it by hook or crook. Why? Because they are passionate, they are obsessive about it, that they want to send their children to for an elite education. I hope you understood this one. In this, the second conclusion follows. let's have a look at the last question for today. The statement says, some people say that good thoughts come in their mind in the morning. So this is the statement issued by the speaker, that good thought come in the morning, and conclusion given here is thoughts come in mind in the morning only. Trigger word again. So if it is not given in the statement, the word only, if it is not specifying it, this is not exclusive that good thoughts come only in morning, how can we write it in the conclusion that good thoughts come in the morning only? You get the idea? So this conclusion doesn't follow the given statement. So this is how you have to answer questions of verbal reasoning. Verbal reasoning questions can be, we've done two types, assumptions and conclusions. We will come up with how to strengthen or weaken a conclusion and how to answer questions based on inference. Inference is hidden conclusion. So we believe that this topic might come in your exam, because with time the CUET exam level of difficulty of this exam is also increasing. So we never know what all can come in exam. It's better that we are well prepared for each and every kind of question. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If you like the video, do not forget to like it and share it with your friends so that everyone can benefit from it. That's all for today. This is Sheetal signing off for today. Thank you and have a happy learning time.